how has your approach to branding evolved, and what are the biggest lessons law firm owners can learn from your journey?
Most people associate branding with logos, websites,
Sure,
colors, a new name. And there's an area of branding that people don't really talk about a lot, which is the level of service that you provide, your customer service. When law firms go through a rebrand, they have an opportunity to show up in a very different way.
If you're an aggressive, growth-minded attorney looking to transform your law firm into a thriving business, you're in the right place. Welcome to the AGM Attorney Podcast, the #1 podcast dedicated exclusively to aggressive, growth-minded attorneys. Each episode will deliver actionable strategies and insights to help you attract ideal clients, scale your law firm, and dominate your market. And now, here's your host, Josh Konigsberg.
Welcome to the AGM Attorney Podcast, where aggressive, growth-minded attorneys discover proven strategies to transform their law firms into thriving businesses. A special thank you to our sponsor, Law Firm Marketing Pros. They get you more leads, more clients, and more profits. I'm your host, Josh Konigsberg. Let's get aggressive. Okay, welcome back to another exciting AGM Attorney Podcast. Welcome back, Alex Miranda, to the podcast. Alex is an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in branding and business strategy. As the co-founder of Virtrify, he helps businesses, including law firms, build strong brands and efficient virtual teams. With a background in business and marketing from Cornell University, Alex has worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs to turn their vision into reality. Welcome back, Alex.
Thank you, Josh, for having me again. Congratulations on this podcast. And to all of your listeners, congratulations on your businesses and your aggressive growth mindset.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Alex, since your last appearance on episode 12, where we explored how virtual teams can enhance a law firm's profitability, and if you haven't listened to it yet, you're missing out. So you're back with us today to dive into a crucial topic, and that is rebranding do's and don'ts for law firms. So what happens when you merge another law firm, two law firms together? We see that all the time. We also see that law firms, associates will go out with multiple associates, maybe from the same law firm, maybe from two different firms, and join, okay? So, or bring in a new partner or acquire a smaller practice, whatever it is. The branding landscape changes dramatically. And we're here today to discuss how to navigate those transactions and transitions successfully. My first question is, over the years, how has your approach to branding evolved, and what are the biggest lessons law firm owners can learn from your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'd like to frame it in a different way, because I think most people associate branding with logos, websites,
Sure,
colors, a new name. And there's an area of branding that people don't really talk about a lot, which is the level of service that you provide, your customer service. You go to a place like Disney. Disney, the brand, is not just the logo and the colors. The Disney brand is how they entertain and how I feel when I go and I interact with Disney. If I want a refund on my, or if I want, my pizza, is cold, they don't ask questions. It's like, okay, here's your other pizza. And you know what? Keep your pizza. It's the brand experience is really what has brought me in as a customer and as a diehard fan. When law firms go through a rebrand, they have an opportunity to show up in a very different way. I'm working with a law firm out of Atlanta. They went through a rebrand. And I met them at a great time because in this new rebrand, they are also scaling very, very hard, more aggressively than I've ever seen any law firm scale up. And they brought me in because they want to bring in virtual staff now to increase their level of customer service. So it's not an answering service that's answering the call, but instead, now they're going to have a team of receptionists that are able to pick up those calls. So I'm not talking about intake people. I'm just talking about just the receptionist alone. Forget about intake. Just the receptionist experience. They want to elevate that experience so that no one's on hold. No one's sort of waiting around. That is an impression that people get right from the beginning. And so elevating that experience through proper staffing is kind of how I've evolved as a branding person into realizing your staff, your customer experience, how efficiently you get things done in your office, and the level of account management that you provide. Now we're moving more into like case managers, how you intake people. So that whole entire experience, and how you find the right people to fill in those roles and really pre-train them and get them ready. That is the branding that I am very much into now. I spent many years on the logo website kind of side, but I've evolved now, and now I'm deeper into what the customer experience is through proper staffing at a law firm.
So kind of to summarize that answer, which I love the answer, it leads great into my next question, tremendously. Great segue. But you could have the most dynamic logo ever created in history with great colors. But if your customer service sucks and the way you answer the phone is horrible and it's the client prevention department, not the client acquisition department, right? None of that matters. Next question really is, and I see this all the time, and most attorneys do this, and not all of them, but they confuse marketing with branding. So can you break down the difference and explain why it's crucial to get both right?
Yeah. So marketing is the tools that you're using to get your service out there so that people know that you exist. Once they come into contact with your marketing, that's when the brand experience begins. So they may have never heard of you in their entire life. Marketing is the engine that put your logo and your words in front of them. That's the moment where branding begins. That's kind of the difference between the branding and the marketing. The marketing is the engine in which we're going to fill our funnel, and branding takes over to give that experience along not just the sales funnel, but even through the sales funnel and into the customer experience, not just into the customer experience, but even after that experience. What feeling did we leave them with so that they leave a great Google review? And now they are a brand ambassador for your law firm, and they will do marketing for you, word of mouth marketing for you. So that brand experience really does translate into future dollars.
So glad you said that. And it's not necessarily a plug, but just want to share. We at Law Firm Marketing Pros, we have a fantastic tool for that called Top Rated Law Firm. And it takes it even beyond what you're saying, because we've built into that platform where we're asking them to leave the review. So it's a review acquisition and a review syndication system. So we're syndicating it beyond Google. And then we actually have an AI response tool, because how important is it that you show enough to care that you responded, and the AI response tool is customizable. And we've taken it even one step further now, where we can acquire video reviews right out of the platform. So just taking that branding all the way through. So it's almost like a 3-step process. So it's tremendous. So in your experience, what are the key elements law firms should focus on when considering a rebrand after either a merger or a leadership change?
Yeah, I think when you're going through a rebrand, it is an opportunity to look at the entire organization. It's not just, again, I'm going to go back to this. You have the opportunity to only focus on the logo and the website and keep on doing business as usual, or you can create momentum in this brand new change. You have the opportunity to look at your entire company again and say, what is our mission, vision, core values? Many times they will line up the same. However, it's a great opportunity for us to look at those things that are the ethos of our company, the wording that we use, how we show up in terms of our key messaging. That can also be impacted. And back to the staffing. How is it that we are producing the widget that we produce? All the way from our marketing, all the way to the end, the operations of it. You know, we've probably been focusing more, Josh, right now on the customer experience. What about the employee
Oh,
experience?
so good, man. So
When you're
good. Yeah.
inside of a law firm and you're working for an aggressive, growth-minded law firm, that can be a very tough place to work.
Sure.
And the more aggressive, the more they're going to push. It's probably going to come across as an aggressive place to work. So what are we doing in terms of supporting our physical staff so that they're not burnt out, so that they don't feel the weight of this aggressive growth all on their shoulders? And how are we bringing in, I'm going back to my own company because I think we all speak from our own paradigm.
Right. Of course.
How are we looking at our support system for our staff by bringing in virtual staff that's going to support the physical staff? That's what we call the hybrid hiring model. You got your physical team. Awesome. This rebrand that they're going to be able to go through. Amazing. But in this rebrand, now we're also going to be touching on the employee experience here at this law firm and who needs support, who's wearing 3 hats or 5 hats that we need to take a couple of those hats off. What's going to happen there is when you bring in support staff on a virtual basis, not only are you operationally saving a whole bunch of money, you're also saving space at the office. There's a law firm up in Georgia that we work with that when I went to go visit it, there was literally not another inch of space to put another person in. They had even expanded to another building because it was just, they were bursting out of their current location. But now I went in and I tell them, look, how about this? We're going to do a physical hiring freeze so that people aren't going to get more and more crammed,
Sure.
which increases stress,
Sure.
makes it a place that I don't want to go in to work at.
More personalities that you have to manage, more personality conflicts,
A
right?
lot of
Exactly.
stuff. Let's build a virtual team. Let's make our employees happier. So a rebrand, Josh, does give the opportunity to touch up on every single aspect, not just the marketing, but the sales, the operations, the human resource, the finance.
I've actually seen that where the attorney's ego is driving the need for larger space. But to me, it shouldn't be about the ego. It should be about profitability. And we're a little bit off track, but that's really what you're speaking to. And in both, physical space as well as other advantages and benefits. But let's get back on track here. So what are some of the most common branding pitfalls that you see aggressive growth-minded law firms falling into, and how can they proactively avoid them?
I'm going to go back to what I've been talking about for this entire segment, which is that they only focus on the design aspect. They're only focused on the name change or the logo and the new website. And they feel that that is a complete rebranding job. But again, I'm going to come back and stress it. Rebranding is an opportunity to look at every single part. When I was in the branding world, doing a whole bunch of rebrandings, we would start with the business owner because branding is an outward expression of an entrepreneur's internal desires for change. When you rebrand, it's typically because you've evolved as an entrepreneur. What you first set up was good for that moment in time in your life, but you're in a new season. You've probably added services from the last time, or you've gotten more focused on a particular service. And so the rebranding is we're going to retell this story because the story has changed. The resurfacing of that internal desire, now it's being outwardly expressed through, again, a name change, a website, maybe new decorations at the office, repainting. All of that good stuff is part of a great rebranding. However, there is an opportunity to touch up on the entire organization, what we stand for, how we operate, and how we're going to go into this new season as a new company. You can start fresh in every area of the business. So I think the pitfall here, Josh, is that you're not taking advantage of the level of depth that you can go through when you go through a full rebranding.
I've never heard it explained so well to this level of depth. So just tremendous for the audience to hear that. So Oftentimes we see that firms are hesitant to invest in a rebrand, right? So how do you help them understand the potential for an increased ROI and long-term growth?
This is the challenge, Josh, because some guys in the marketing space, there's a gentleman named Andrew Cass. He and a lot of direct response marketers think branding and rebranding is a bunch of fluff. Why? Because there's no direct correlation to ROI. And I get it. If I launch a marketing campaign and I put, $200,000 into marketing, and then it generates leads that turn into money, I can directly correlate that investment to an ROI. But if I get a new logo, how do I know? How do I know with precision that that logo brought in X number of sales? I don't. And this is the challenge that branding people have faced, which is that we're not in a place like marketing companies to be able to say, this is what I can do and this is how much money it's going to produce. Branding is a bringing to life type of scenario. Think about a child being brought in at birth. They're costing you money. They're not making you money. Child has no personality yet, has nothing. They're not producing anything for you. But the child needs to be brought to life. Branding is a bringing to life of a brand. A rebranding is a bringing to life of a new brand. It's a necessary aspect. And what marketers need to do is take that brand new brand, and hopefully what the rebranding did was it focused the company on a trajectory of a more targeted audience. And so what's supposed to happen from a rebrand is that the marketing team would then take that rebrand and be able to deliver faster results and better results because the rebrand helped the marketing show up in a new way.
So for firms considering a rebrand, what are the top 3 practical first steps they should take to assess and to improve their brand identity?
Yeah, I think the first key here is you should probably get with a branding agency that specializes in law firm rebranding or law firm branding. There's no shortage of branding agencies out there that will help them. It's also important to note that a branding agency is different than a marketing agency. Again, marketing is how you get the brand message out there. And so when you're considering a rebranding, you should know that there are people that specialize in rebranding and branding, and those people will likely have a process they'll take you through. I know when I owned a branding agency, we had a very, very specific process of all the questions that we needed to ask that weren't, again, just focused on logos and websites and business cards, but they were deeper questioning that really brought out the heart of the entrepreneur, their passion, their vision for a different future. A great branding agency will be able to extract those things from the entrepreneur, probably questions that they never even thought would matter in a branding experience or a rebranding exercise are going to come out. It's going to feel deeply personal. And that's what you want. You want a company that's going to be able to pull out the heart of the company and then be able to translate that into the proper key messaging that's out there. So just the only advice that I would give, I wouldn't give 3 keys here. I would just give 1, which is the same way that you wouldn't go to a criminal defense attorney for a personal injury case. You wouldn't go to just a generic, let's say even an advertising agency to do your rebranding. You'd want to really contract with a branding specialist. And there are marketing companies out there that do both branding and marketing. It's actually 2 different departments, 2 different people within that company. But because they work so hand in hand, many marketing agencies also have a branding division.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so that's important to understand and note. The same guy that designs your logo or the same guy that develops your website is not your branding guy. I've had this happen so many times. They go and they hire a website guy thinking that website guy can do their branding. That's way 2 different modalities. A branding person thinks very differently than a graphic designer or even a media buyer. Some people think that because it's part of the same sort of tree vein, they are completely different. Someone who's a branding person is like a counselor to the CEO. If you notice in a company, there is no branding department. You have sales, marketing, human resource, finance, operations. There's no branding department. Why? So the branding department sits at the C level next to the CEO because the branding department influences every single division in the company. It's important that you really understand that you want a branding specialist to handle a rebranding.
So well said. And so many entrepreneurs, including, law firm owners, just think it's logo, business cards, letterhead, and they go to the local printer and that's it. And it's so much deeper than that. And with that in mind, because it's part of that is perception, and most people don't like change. So what role does the client perception play in a rebrand in terms of retaining trust? So the change is we're rebranding, and I'm known within the community. I hear this all the time. I'm so well known within my community, and they're really not, right? They think they are. How can we ensure that they retain the trust that they've gained over years?
When you're going through a rebrand, especially if you're going to go through a name change, you do risk losing a whole bunch of equity that you've been able to build up over the years. There are strategies to go through a rebranding in a way in which you can not just retain that equity, but actually tell the story in a way that elevates that equity. There are many technicalities that you need to follow if your website is going to rebrand and now you've changed your name. Whole bunch of technicalities that have to be followed there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, so there's like a 200-part checklist that my company had when you're going through a big rebranding like this. And I'm only talking about the name rebranding, the name change rebranding. There has to be a new level of treatment there to be able to build momentum off of that equity that you've built for so many years. When it's not a particular name change, like you're retaining the same name, you're just showing up in a very different way. This is where now public relations comes in. So now I'm touching on a different department that marketing people, advertising agencies, and branding people don't do. Or you have an agency that has those various departments in it.
Some of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So when it comes to public relations, this is what will be able to not just maintain that name in the community, but actually work to strengthen that name in the community. That's what public relations is.
One of the other things that I see is the attorneys grapple with balancing their personal brand and their firm's identity. So how can you achieve synergy without creating confusion?
That's a great question. And I think we're going to see that more and more. This somewhat comes down to, again, I'm going to get a little deeper here. There's branding and then there's personal branding. And there are people out there that focus on personal branding. I find some people, Josh, don't care about the personal brand. I find people that know that it's important, but do nothing about it. Then I find other people that know it's important and are doing something about it and are investing in that. And that actually requires a different person. Okay. That's a different person. You would hire this person specifically for personal branding. There's a whole different strategy that goes into personal branding. Photography, videography, all revamping of social media profiles. And
it's content driven, really.
It is a lot of content. It's content driven because that's what it is. That's what people are seeing about you.
That's right. That's right.
Out there. That outward expression, when it comes to personal branding, you're allowed to step into new areas where, for example, your law firm might not be able to promote that you are a strong Christian man of Christian values, but a personal brand, you can go all in on that concept.
So well said. That's right.
So, and it not affect, per se, the law firm itself. However, it will affect the law firm itself because you as a personal brand become a stronger dragon to be able to bring in more business.
With the incredible meteoric rise of social media now and the digital presence and how important that is, how important is it for an aggressive, growth-minded attorney to position themselves as thought leaders within their sub-niche? So if you're PI, a sub-niche might be catastrophic injury, for example, right? Or I have a client that focus on premises liability, but it's not only just premises liability, it's condo premises liability, right? So what advice would you give them for maintaining their firm's overall brand and then within the sub niche?
For my company, I have various niches that I go after, but I'll spend 3 to 6 months really focusing on one niche on my LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn as the tool, the personal branding tool, to position myself as an expert, authority, or thought leader. And I'm speaking specifically on the personal brand side here. If this month I want to go after a certain set of business, or for the next 3 months, I want to go after a certain segment of the market, what's going to happen is my LinkedIn is going to, the language that I speak, the posts that I post, everything that I do for 3 to 6 months is going to be heavily focused on that particular niche. It doesn't mean I don't do other things. It just means I am positioning myself as an expert and authority in that particular niche. My company brand on LinkedIn will then repost those things, but my company can remain agnostic to a particular niche and continue to kind of, spell out the various types of services and offers. I believe in EOS, they sort of create these things called rocks, like things you're going to really go after. If a company is deciding to really go after a certain segment or market, well, then the personal brand is going to help me position myself as that expert and authority, and my company can piggyback on that.
So good, by the way. How should an aggressive growth-minded attorney, you touched on this earlier, so how should an aggressive growth-minded attorney or law firm measure their success of rebranding? What KPIs should they use to track and determine if changes are working? Very difficult to do, I think.
Yeah, very difficult. There are softwares out there that measure your clout and measure your brand equity. And these are investments that you mentioned Nike, they invest in these kinds of softwares. McDonald's, but they're very expensive softwares, and it's very expensive work because it's not easily measured. So many things have to come into play here, and algorithms and formulas to be able to bring some kind of number out.
The overarching question that we ask is, so how's it going? Like, are your numbers up? Right. And typically it takes some time, and we kind of see this, right, as it goes up and up and up. Right. I think that's probably the indicator. How's business? Right.
Yeah. How's business doing? Because it can't just be about a feeling. I feel better because I have a better website or a better logo or a better name. I think that when you're going through a rebranding, Josh, there's also an opportunity for a refocusing. Let's say you were a law firm that specialized in many things, but now you're going to be a law firm that really hones in on one thing. The measurement of that will be ultimately in the number of new cases that are being brought in under that particular focus.
Right. That's what makes perfect sense.
And the amount that you're able to charge for that, because now you're hyper-focused as a specialist. I think a great rebranding is an opportunity to focus in and bring in certain types of cases that you want, because even within personal injury, there are a whole myriad of cases that you'd want to bring in to your firm, and other ones that you're like, yeah, that's a personal injury case, but we're trying to focus in more on these other types of personal injury cases.
That's right.
And so, you leave the other ones to the other guys who are just building their personal injury law firms because you're deciding that you want to go in a more specialized direction. And ultimately, the rebrand, the ROI on that particular initiative will be how many more of those cases are you bringing in?
Such good stuff, man. So just one final question. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom to impart on a law firm that's considering a rebrand?
I would say if a law firm is considering a rebrand, that it not be for vanity's sake. It's not for ego's sake. That you're making a strategic business move to realign the firm in a brand new direction. You're not doing it because the guy down the street did it. You're not doing it because it's the trendy thing to do. You're not doing it because you haven't done it in 5 or 10 years. Those are terrible reasons to rebrand. A rebrand is an opportunity to take the company in a brand new direction. And you have the opportunity to take full advantage of the momentum that can come about from that opportunity. And so as the CEO, as the visionary, if you're listening to this, take full advantage. If you in your heart feel that the company needs to shift, pivot, a rebrand is the only place to start first, because every other department, including marketing, sales, those are going to be affected heavily by obviously the new direction of the firm. You have the opportunity to go in a whole new direction. The rebranding is such an amazing experience because we get to show up in the market as a brand new person, as a brand new company. But I did say the word person in there. And now I'm going to end this with a personal note, is that you can also take a rebranding personally. Maybe you're going through a they call midlife crisis. Maybe you're going through a season change of yourself as a business owner. A rebranding is also an opportunity for you to look introspectively and say, where do I need to change as a person, as a CEO, as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, as a spiritual leader? Where do I need to go and show up differently? Because here's what I'll tell you. If you take your company in a brand new direction, but you don't change, your company, I don't care what new lipstick you slap on it, it's going to remain the same company. You have the opportunity to change as well.
It's now time to move on to my favorite part of the podcast. It's a lightning round. This is where I ask you a series of questions very quickly. You just answer to what comes to your mind. This is where people get to know, like, and trust you. So first question, Alex, what never fails to make you laugh?
Coming to America.
Oh, great movie. Best compliment you ever got?
Your biceps are looking great. Look at those biceps.
They are amazing. I've been watching you, man, on social media. Good stuff. Person that you would trade places with for one day?
The CEO of Disney World.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Alex, what is your guilty pleasure?
I eat cereal at night.
And what kind of cereal? Which one?
At least I did switch to this protein cereal. It's called Magic Spoon. So at least it's healthy cereal.
Okay, good stuff, man. What is the best gift that you've ever given someone?
I gave my friend a clothes rack to hang his clothes after he washed. Because I noticed he was hanging them like on different parts of his house. So I gave him a clothes rack, and to this day, I still see him use it. I love gifts that are useful gifts that people will just keep on using.
Okay. Good stuff, man. Worst piece of advice you ever got?
Close your business down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Heavy. What's the one thing that you wish you were better at dealing with?
I'm getting better at it, but I wish I was better at dealing with my wife. But that's not a crack on marriage or my wife. That just means that I wish I was better at being a husband.
There you go. Okay. That's so important though, right? So, what was your favorite childhood movie?
Goonies.
What is the one book that changed your life?
The Purpose-Driven Life.
And tell us something that most people don't know about you.
Most people don't know that I was born in Germany. My dad was in the army.
Wow.
And so they stationed him in Germany, and that's where I was born. No, I don't know any German. I left a year later. Okay. And I'm not German, and I don't have a German passport. Okay. But I was born in Germany.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Alex, tell the audience what's the best way for them to get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can reach me at alex@virtrify.com, virtrify.com. I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn. Both of them are Alex Miranda 22.
Awesome. Well, Alex, thanks so much for being a guest again. I just can't tell you how much I love listening to you. You have so much wisdom to share. Really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the AGM Attorney Podcast. Now it's time to put these strategies into action and accelerate your growth. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you next time.